prepared speeches section. The first item on the prepared speech section is a workshop. And tonight we have invited a wonderful speaker who is giving her workshop for us. And she is Sinjini Sengupta. I hope I pronounced that correctly, Sinjini. Now, here's a short blurb about her. Now, she is an alumna of the Indian Statistical Institute. Wow, that sounds like really difficult. She is an actuary. Ooh, another difficult subject. And she turned into an award-winning storyteller, author, speaker, and columnist. And she has spoken multiple times on TEDx. I really want to hear your story, of your change in being a bean counter. I was an accountant, into a storyteller. Now, she is also a mentor of change at NITI Ayog, which is, I suppose, some kind of organization, and volunteers as a mentor, coach, and influencer on a number of platforms such as Toastmasters International, Shiro's Job for Her, etc. She is a distinguished Toastmaster and she is the National President of Mentoring and Soft Skills at the Women's Indian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. And at Lighthouse, Sengupta teaches program in personal growth and leadership and helps individuals discover their true authentic voice and leverage it for personal transformation, impact, and branding. She works extensively with women leaders, entrepreneurs, educators, and corporate and community leaders. Now, can I ask, how should I address you? Is it Sengupta or is it Sinjini as your first name?
It is Sinjini. Sinjini is my first name, but feel free.
Sinjini.
Really, yes.
Okay, Sinjini. Okay. I hope that that is really, a very illustrious background. I would really love to learn more from you and your workshop today. Without further ado, let's welcome Sinjini, Distinguished Toastmaster.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Gwen. And it's my absolute pleasure to be here with you. Am I audible perfectly well, or should I speak louder? Okay, perfect. Thank you. So thank you for asking me for my, very twisted tale of my career and life and story. So I studied economics and then I went on to become an actuary and spent my entire 20s studying very hard exams and cracking exams and staying closed doors and saying no to all the friends and all the outings and all the films. And then the way I often say it is that I was grown up on the great Indian myth, which says that if you study hard, everything in life is going to be a cakewalk. So I was stupid. I fell for it. I hope none of you are like me. And then I had a professional burnout. I was a step away from quadriplegia. When I was denying my truth for a very long time, which is that, I'm getting everything materialistic, but I'm not quite happy and I don't know what this life is about and what's really going on. But then I would hush my inner voice and go on following the hands of the clock. And then my body spoke louder. Following that, 2015, I had a professional burnout. I thought I'll take a little sabbatical, get well, and just come back to work. That is what I told my people on the last day of my work. So I am, an actuary by profession. You can imagine I had a large team of 40 people. I was working as a group leader. Since that time, 2015 also happens to be my first encounter with Toastmaster. The reason I say that is that many of you are perhaps sitting on the fence or, making up your mind, or even if you are already in Toastmaster, you might be wondering what it entails, what it becomes, So before I even launch into my workshop, here is a little bit of, an insider truth. When they say it's about communication and leadership, it's a lie. Don't believe that. It's not about communication and leadership. It is about transforming your life. It is about growing a story muscle, which you will carry everywhere where you go, irrespective and agnostic of your circumstances, of your profession, of your home, society, road, workplace, anything. So what happened to me is that, when I was kind of bedridden, it was not me who picked up the pen picked me up. I started to write. I wrote a novel, which was then made into a short film that was screened at Cannes Film Festival. I also, wrote and write international columns on a number of things. I spoke on TEDx a few times, etc., as Cohen very kindly mentioned. And of course, in Toastmasters, I have had my journey of being in the district level a couple of times, and etc., etc. But those were really on the outside. On the inside, storytelling changed the color of my heart. I'm not exaggerating as I'm saying this. I'm saying this with full responsibility. It has the power of changing the color of your heart. And that happened to me. And I therefore made it my mission to help other people tell their stories, because I feel that at the end of this tunnel of storytelling lies that light, which can be our true fulfillment and realizing our potential and power as this one human life. Stories can really accomplish more than what we imagine. It's a pity it is not a part of our standard educational curriculum, but it is also good because it is a part of our adult education through Toastmaster. So thank you for asking for a background, which is why I took these extra few minutes. Now I'll get into focusing the spotlight right back onto you. So if I may have your permission, and if all of you have a pen and a paper or a screen to scribble something on, may I ask you a series of little questions which you can answer and write down. Of course, you don't have to share it, but you can just write it down for yourself. And as I ask them, you don't have to write complete sentences. You don't even have to write words. You can write broken phrases. You can draw stick figures. You can really do whatever you want. I just want these questions to be implanted into your mind. So think of one story of your life. One story. One story that is the first story that comes to your mind when I asked you to think of one story. The first instinctive story. And if any of you have not yet figured out that particular story that you want to think about, what is that one decision that changed your life? What is the last post you made on social media? What are you angry about? What are you sad about? What do you fall in love about? Did you have a heartbreak ever? How did you decide on your career? Anything really, these are just prompts. And if all of you have got one story in your head, can I see a show of thumb? Perfect. Who is the character of your story? Who is the protagonist character of your story? Just one word. Who is the side character, or who are the side characters? Are there, more than one character at the core? Is it a parent who led you to your current career? Is it a boss that made you leave your last job? Is it the government that made you angry to make that last social media post as a rant, or, as an angry submission? What is the problem you are trying to explore with your story? Because of course, if there is no problem, if we are perfectly satiated, as I am from an economics background, first principle that we were taught is insatiation. If human beings were satisfied, they wouldn't attend anything like a Toastmaster meeting. So what are you dealing with in terms of problem in your story? What if that problem is left unexplored, unresolved, unfixed? What if nobody does anything about that problem? What if your problem gets solved? How does it get solved? Through your story. It doesn't have to be a fix-it-all formula, but are you living your story at the end thread with a ray of hope, or maybe a real solution? What is the solution? So when I shared on social media that I'm going to talk about the hero's journey, I got quite a few very interesting and endearing comments on my post, as well as personal messages saying, wow, hero's journey, what is it about? So that was kept a suspense until I came to this point when I'll tell you what is the hero's journey. Is there anybody who wants to take a dab at it, like one or two people? Anyone?
Anyone? No, if not, I can go.
Sure. Yes, go ahead, please.
So I'll follow your structure. My story is about myself, and the protagonist is myself. And what problem do I have? I was 35 years old, and I dare not talk to ladies. I dare not even look at ladies' eyes, right there
Thank
in
you
their
so
eyes.
much.
I had
Thank
to look here. So anyway.
Yeah, thank you so much. No, that's wonderful. So the answer I was really looking for is that what is the hero's journey? What do you mean by the hero's journey? Does that term sound anything familiar to you? Have you ever encountered that phrase, the hero's journey?
When I heard
Yes,
this,
Bharat.
sorry,
Oh,
all right.
sorry. I'm so sorry. Goin, thank you so much for sharing that. And that's a very honest and very vulnerable problem you are sharing. Thank you. I'll be eager to know how that story ends, maybe at the end of my speech. Bharat, please.
My story is about my brother, my life, my childhood, and he is a special child, a learning disabled, and a younger brother to me, and I was his guardian, and it was good for me to see him on a cover of a Span magazine back in 1978 or 80. He could not go out of the house alone, and we together learned, and everyone told in my family, look, you're going to kill him. And he used to bicycle to the school. So that is some big achievement. And he is still there, and still I am the guardian for him.
Thank you for sharing. And isn't it magical? I mean, what parts of our human slices of life come out? We know our colleagues for maybe 20 years at a stretch, but we would never know these insider stories. We would never see that elder brother's heart, that palpitating, could be boyfriend, may not be boyfriend, because I couldn't meet her eyes, kind of coincidence, pair of eyes. Or by hero's journey, I want to invoke the very famous and my very favorite philosopher, Joseph Campbell. Have any of you heard his name, Joseph Campbell? So Joseph Campbell charted out a typical, so he's of course, somebody who inspires and touches, like inspired and touched many lives through his body of work in psychology, philosophy, and overall, scholarly assessment and tributes. He says that the hero's journey is of a hero which applies to every man and woman on this planet. A hero's journey starts when that person is disrupted or has a kind of a ground-shattering, earth-cracking moment where that person is shaken off from the status quo, from the equilibrium, from the existing situation or circumstance that that person is rightly in. So a hero's journey starts when there is something that does not satisfy him or her. The 4 stages of the hero's journey is first, the quest. He says that every one of us are on a quest. But at the beginning, it is a leap of faith. We do not know what is at the end, but here is the problem and we need to do something about it and we need to brave it. So at the first stage, it is a little bit like tasting the waters. It's like not being sure, can I overcome this? Can I win over this problem? Can I solve it? But she tries, but he tries. The second stage is then the elevation, the confidence, the muscle development, the quest of achievement, the quest of trying to know, understand, get information, be curious, research. The third stage is when she or he overcomes the problem. When she or he achieves that extra faculty, that extra muscle, that extra strength, bravery, courage, vulnerability, whatever it requires to accept and overcome and triumph over the problem. But the hero's journey is never complete without the 4th step. When he or she brings that gift they have achieved over this journey back to the world and back to the regular life, back to the routine, back to the discipline, back to the mainstream that she or he were doing. So we don't always have to leave our job or leave our home and go up the mountains in a cave to meditate or make some drastic, big, earth-shattering changes in our life. When we face something, we need to be creative, be explorative, be imaginative, give it a try, develop it, win over it, and bring it back to make ourselves more empowered even in our current lives, or in our swerves, or in our changed lives, whatever it is. The reason I talk about the hero's journey in the context of a storytelling session is because I believe that just like a person and his or her life, each of our stories are also a hero's journey. It has a character, it has a context, it has a crisis, and unless you talk about that crisis, unless you solve that crisis, it will lead to a climax that will intensify it. But with your mastery in storytelling, you will bring it to a closure and you will mainstream it. You will leave each of your audience with a change of heart, with an action point to do, with something that will change the color of the audience, change the color of their hearts, and make them empowered with the gift you have to share with the world. So with this context of the hero's journey, our communication really becomes empowered, because now we have a structure in mind, now we have a goal in mind, and now we know how, when we are telling our next story, we are just not ticking off the next project on the pathways, or just completing a business presentation. Oh God, now it's done and let's hit the bar in the evening for a drink. We know that we have been able to make a difference, to change a life by changing our own lives. However, if that challenge is something that calls you to an action, and if you are going to be a new club who is chartering and who is wondering, it is at the stage of a leap of faith. It is at a stage when you are deciding and discussing in your mind, consulting your own body, mind, anxiety, or confidence, or courage, or vulnerability, to decide where does it lead? What will happen after all? Will I be, speaking like one of those speakers, or will I be just dabbling with it and coming back? And then you need reasons, you need logic, you need research, you need something to validate your decision. So let me give you a couple of reasons why storytelling works magic. First, you see, in today's time and age, in today's current world, where technology is practically doing everything that human beings could do once upon a time. Technology has really taken up all our muscle power work, and technology has really taken over all our information-based work, and technology is even taking up our skill-based work. Even the most difficult of the surgeries are being done by artificial intelligence, and eye surgeries and heart surgeries are being done without any human supervision. And in this time and this age, the only way left to be human is to be human. And to be human is to open your heart, to show your heart, to stand up and be seen, be heard, be understood. And how can you be understood unless you tell your stories? Like an old African proverb goes, unless the lion learns to tell his stories, the history will always glorify the hunter. Do you want other people to tell your story? Or do you want to stand up and tell your story? Do you want to individuate your presence? And do you want to become that person who looks into the mirror and says, there is no one like this person, because nobody else has lived his or her life. Nobody else knows the wisdom, the lived experience, the treasure, the gold mine. That is this one person. So your challenge, your competition becomes yourself. You are not competing with the rest of the world anymore. And your skill, it is also not replaceable, because your company, your job, your venture, your whatever product, service, whatever you are selling or trading or interacting with the world with, all of those perhaps can be replaceable, but not the part of you that you infuse in it. And as I understand, many of you are entrepreneurs like myself. And unless we infuse a part of us into our product, into our marketing messages, into our personal branding, people don't believe what you say unless they know why you say it. Our stories help us tell people why we care, why we do what we do. And of course, it is a durable and transferable skill. It never goes out of fashion. So much so that if you think where stories come from, I would even challenge that stories come before language came around. Think of our ancient forefathers and foremothers. Before they discovered language, long back in a far land, maybe in Africa, they would all be coming into the caves to rest for the night, and during the day they would be out hunting and the women gathering. And around that time, when they would have just discovered firestone and how by striking one stone against another, they can invoke the sun on the earth. And in the evenings, when the sun would be down, they would perhaps light a bonfire and gather around it. And through grunts and through hand gestures and non-verbal cues, they would perhaps express there's a wild animal there, they don't go there. The rain is coming, the monsoon is coming, this year will be a drought. They used to draw stick figures on the cave walls, which now we are excavating with help of archaeology. So stories are older than language. Stories happen to you as a child when your ears and your hearing capacity developed in the womb much before you saw the daylight. So stories are as powerful, as ancient, and as mystical as that. And think of what happens to your biology when you hear a story. Come it from your manager, come it from your customer, come it from your investor, come it from whoever. When we just start saying that once upon a time in a land far away, somewhere inside you, there's a little child which comes and sits cross-legged and eyes wide and jaws hanging. And what does that mean? When our eyes are wide, our sensory organs are ready to take in more. Our critical, logical, analytical mind is suspended because our imaginative eyes are opening up. So in that context, that story, the application of that story becomes very important. But here is the twist in the tale, as I promised. If we were talking about discomfort, if we were talking about leap of faith, now I want to challenge you and step up to the next challenge. Because before I give the solution, there has to be a crisis, which is intensified because we are not solving it. And here is the crisis. When you talk to an audience, it is not about your story. Just like right now, as I'm talking to you, each one of you on the screen, it's not about me. I'm not the protagonist of this story. You all are. It is always about the audience. If we use the screen time and the stage time to our advantage to tell the world about our brag stories, after a while, they would be switching on their mobile and going out of the room. Our attention span is less than that of a goldfish these days. And they have their own problems. They have their own crisis to solve. You have to enter the conversation in your head. You have to talk to them in a way that solves their problem, not your problem. Even if you're sharing your story, your first crush, your brother, your father, your daughter, your child, your home, your campus, your college life, there should be that part of it that they can relate to. A lovely quote that I had read somewhere. Your audience, you must know, has a void in their heart, exactly in the shape of your words. You have to find that word that fills up the void in their heart, not yours. When I teach my sessions, there are 3 techniques that I primarily concentrate on when I talk about audience and rapport. The first thing is I would like you to imagine going to a place, you and your friend, and you are looking at a house. So you are looking at one facade of the house and your friend is looking at the other facade of the house. And you say, wow, large windows and such a sunny side and north facing, and wow, what an open, lovely portico is this. And your friend says, where do you even see the window? I see chimney and gas, and this is so clumsy, and this is the dump yard. You are looking at the same house, but from different directions. Just like that, when we talk about our stories, we look at our stories, but from different directions, because we are looking at it from different directions. So it becomes impending on us, the storyteller, to go appreciate, understand the angle the audience is seeing, and then to quietly hold their hand and take them slowly, one step by one step, into your side, to show them your side of the story. The second one, nonverbal cues. Open arms, eye contact, facial gestures, just your availability, just your approachability, your combination of authority and approachability that they can trust so much that they can eat out of your hand. Because trust, as they say, ranks even higher than love. And through your stories, you can win the trust of your audience, customer, investor, whoever. And of course, the third thing, your purpose. The thing is that, say, for example, you have a drilling machine, and this is an example I'm borrowing from Seth Godin. Many of you would have known him from the YouTube videos. So he says your audience, your customer doesn't need a drill. Your customer needs a hole on the wall. You don't go and talk about whether your drill machine is green or black or how much it costs and what it pays. You talk about the whole of the wall that they are looking for. So your purpose of your story is to solve your audience problem, is to complete the hero's journey in your audience's heart. So with that, I guess I am at yellow, but there was a red before that. So I'm not really very sure of the time, but I will leave it to you to ask me questions if you have any. And I think that should help us close the workshop with some takeaways, with some change of the color of the heart for you, but not without one last comment from me. Those ancient times, those cave men and cave women, those bonfires they used to huddle around. Now the times have changed. We don't even realize, we don't use the sun for light. We have electricity. We have all the fancy, every single thing of material that can help us survive. But that fire hasn't died away. That fire is still alive in form of ideas, in form of passion. All the entrepreneurs who are the biggest industries in the world right now, the Google and the Facebook, they're all born of one idea, born out of first generation entrepreneurs out of garages. It is not about muscle power. It is not about money power. It is not about your lineage, what house, what parentage. It is about the power of one idea and how you can infuse that with story to create your life and to change the life of others. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sinjini. Wow, the hero story, the power of the story.